but this one's Estevan's. This super iconic photo. Yeah. Hey, how's it going, man?
How did you come up with all that?
What's up, Pollo?
What's up, boss?
How you doing, man?
You're good, how are you?
Good. We got these shredders from Calgary.
Yes.
All these guys skate, so these guys own a skate shop up in Canada. They're down here filming. Yeah. This is Albert. Albert works here. Longtime team member of ours for many years, holds it down. This guy runs the shop basically over here. Yeah, so there's a front of house, you know, pizza cooking, pizza making. Yeah, so the reason I, got into owning, my own brand and, specifically pizza was I like the correlation between, how creative skateboarding is just as a activity. And I thought, in terms of food, it's hard to get creative with like French food or like Italian per se, or, like specific ethnic cuisines, but I feel like there's a lot of rules and formalities, around like how you produce like sauces for French cuisine and things like that. And then, the other thing really is like, I never really thought of starting a pizzeria. I always thought of starting my own brand, and to me, it's basically a skate brand. And instead of focusing on hard goods and apparel or footwear, we serve food. And I thought pizza, like the idea to do pizza was that's where I come back to the correlation. So pizza is one of those blank canvases that you can kind of do anything with, So I felt like there would be infinite possibilities to create. And that's, to me, what's fun, about this enterprise and just being in business in general, Yeah, so on our menu, we do have some items over the years that have been inspired by skateboarding. When we first started doing collaborations, for example, our first one was with Street League. That kind of kicked off like this whole custom pizza box idea that we came up with, that we've been doing. So we did a lot of collaborations. So we've done collaborations with Street League, Thrasher, Santa Cruz, and then photography, like Lenny Friedman. We've did a collaboration with Mark Gonzalez, Hosoi, Cab, all kinds of people. We did stuff with Joel Tudor, and who's a pro surfer, but Neil Blender did the artwork for the boxes. So we've done a lot of really interesting collaborations over the years. And so as far as the menu goes, but we have had some fun stuff. So we had like the Glenny Vegan, which I'd like to bring back. It was like a kale pizza with avocado, and I think it had broccoli and olives. It was really good. And then Hosoi had a crazy pizza. So we did a book release party for his book when his autobiography came out, and it was Moco Loco, which is a Hawaiian themed. It had rice and gravy and ground beef and eggs, and it was pretty wild. And then the Cab salad, that's actually a seasonal menu item. So when strawberries and blueberries and certain produce is in season, we'll reintroduce it. So that's a seasonal, annual seasonal product that we have. Cab lived in the same town as I did. Ray Barbie lived in my town. Robert Torres, a lot of sponsored skaters for Santa Cruz and other brands. I think Ray rode for Alva when I first met him, actually. I don't know. I talked to Stacy about it not long ago, and I was telling him, you know, I felt at that time that if he knew that I exist, like just if he knows that I exist on Earth, I got it made. You know, like that's all I need. If he knows it, so that happened. You know, I was skating with Cab. I was with Javante Turner, actually. He was visiting from San Francisco, and Stacy came up to film Steve for Public Domain. And we went out and all hung out and skated that day, and you know, he put us on. End of the day, we were on the team. I remember we went and had sushi. It was like, I'd never had sushi before. We had this, I mean, the platter felt like it was from here to over there somewhere, you know, it was like this huge platter of sushi, and it was such a cool experience, you know. But, you know, when I think back to my childhood and that time, I don't want to say believe or use the words like belief or faith, but I want to say I trust in manifesting. And I think that there's a certain element of, you know, mental, emotional, spiritual focus that individuals can have that can essentially manifest certain realities, you know, in your own personal life. And I think when I was a kid, being part of that Bones Brigade era and being, you know, recognized by Stacy was a conscious manifestation. You know, it's like it wasn't like, oh, I want to be pro or I want to be, you know, it was more that I wanted to belong in the skateboarding community. You know, I really loved, like, you know, the fashion, the art, the music, the style, like the whole vibe of skateboarding in the community back then in the 80s. So I just wanted to be part of it, you know? So that was kind of like my single-minded focus. And yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. Yeah, so the whole, you know, movement, like to go skate backwards, I do want to say I saw a couple clips, you know, one of Gon's and I want to say one of Tommy, and I think they were both doing the same trick, which was like basically a stalefish, but backwards, because they were doing switch backside airs, but they were early grabbing, like off a jump ramp or a bump or something like that. And you know, one of the things that was very conscious in my thought process when I was a kid was differentiation. You know, I already knew, like, in order to, you know, stand out or to, you know, yeah, basically stand out, you had to be an individual. You had to have something different, you know. So as the board started changing, I was super into nollying, and one of the people that inspired me big time was Naudis, because I was in San Francisco and we were skating brown marble benches right around the corner from Embarcadero, and I saw Naudis nollie. He didn't even grind, he just did a nollie up to 50-50 stall on one of the benches. And you know, it was about that high, like a bench height, and I was blown away because I'd never seen that before, you know. And from that moment forward, like, I focused my skating on that. So I was doing a lot of tricks, nollie tricks, you know. And then the other thing that just kind of serendipitously helped me was when I first started skating, I pushed Mongo, and I learned to push the other way. And so when I started going backwards, I could just push very naturally. You know, I didn't have to push switch Mongo. So that's one of the things that I think made my skating switch look so natural. But yeah, I had some inspiration for sure. Naudis, Gons, Tommy. Those were like three guys that and Ray Barbie, I idolized a lot when I was young. Yeah, and then boards just started, you know, I think Vallely had that Barnyard board come out, and then boards just started getting crazy. I don't know if the boards are like that now, but the noses, they probably are. The noses were always longer. Like a nose was, I remember noses back then in the late 80s, early 90s were 7 inches, you know, and your tail was like 6.5, so it was super long. And then there was all those, I don't know, I just remember at Embarcadero, it was like a trend to do like nose slide, crooked grind, or, you know, there's all kinds of weird shit going on, you know. Yeah, so just from the culinary aspect, what makes, you know, Pizzanista different is a few things. For one, we make everything. You know, a lot of pizzerias use packaged ingredients or pre-made ingredients or frozen dough, things like that. So we actually make our own sourdough crust, and we make our sauce from scratch, and we also do use most of all of our produce is organic. So from a product standpoint, it's super elevated, and we use all the highest quality proteins, cheeses, meats, and as much as we can, source from sustainably raised farmers. So it's definitely on the product level, it's a lot higher quality. Kind of cool to see inside a walk-in. So I was telling you about our dough production. These are our dough bins right here. It's called batch fermentation. So the dough gets mixed with the sourdough leaven, and then it sits in here and ferments for 24 hours. And then once that's done, we bring it out and make it into the balls. And then those continue to ferment. They're here in these smaller ones. And then by the time we use one, it's usually about 48 hours. So they've had 48 hours of fermentation, which gives it that sour flavor in the crust. Yeah, so, our menu hasn't really evolved much since we opened, but from the get-go, I felt it was important to have, plant-based options, and we've always done that, and it's something that we look to expand on. And I think that there's a lot of innovation happening, with plant-based products and also with just protein in general. There's a company it used to be called Memphis Meats. I can't remember what they changed their name to, but they're actually doing proteins that are grown in a lab. So no animals get killed. They take the animal proteins and grow steaks and chicken legs or breasts and all kinds of stuff. And you can't even tell, you wouldn't know by eating it that it wasn't raised on a farm, slaughtered, and then processed. So I think innovations like that are things that we want to be a part of. And I think ultimately, just thinking long-term about sustainability and just ecological degradation on the earth, we as a brand, it behooves us to embrace things that have less impact on the environment, So that's kind of our mission with what we serve. Oh, yeah, the Meat Jesus. The Meat Jesus, yeah, it's popular. So it's kind of just, been a joke. The Meat Jesus is this joke that we've had. And we make our own meatballs in-house, so we want it to be bacon and pastrami and meatball. We would just want it to be so full of meat that you would die after you ate a slice from cardiac arrest. And so the idea, throwing this religious theme into it was the Meat Jesus. And it just stuck, Just serendipitously, because of the way food prices have been going, it landed at $6.66 a slice. So when we started using some plant-based proteins, we did the seitan meets Jesus, which was a fun one to do too. And I think it's the same price. Yeah, so we've been a part of the community right here in downtown LA for 12 years, and over the years we've given a lot of support to different non-profit organizations down here that either feed the homeless or with underserved youth and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely, from a brand perspective, our focus, the way we communicate our brand is more lifestyle driven, so things that we don't typically put emphasis on are charitable donations, food origination, price, or we don't do deals, you know what I'm saying? Because that's also what differentiates us from a lot of brands is their talking points are either finance or, it might be a celebrity chef or something. And to us, that shit's boring, we like talking about skateboarding, art, music, fashion, design, what we're making, collaborations that we have with PETA and Joan Jett and Miyoko's, and to us, those are our talking points. So even though we are involved in charitable giving and things like that, it's not something that we try to leverage to convince people to come here. You know what I'm saying? It's not a marketing tool for us. Yeah, so over the last, decade, we've probably done over 100 collaborations, and it was just something that I was interested in doing to essentially create our brand and differentiate it. You know, I noticed that like we could get plain pizza boxes, so I just started treating the box as essentially like the bottom of a skateboard deck, and we just been doing graphics, different graphics, and working with different artists, photographers. I mean, we've done, it's cool, like we had Ali Bilala on a box that Arto shot. You know, we had the Mark Gonzalez box that we did was amazing. We only did 50 of them, and they were all laser etched boxes. They were really cool, all different colors. We did a collaboration with the Descendants for their last album release, and we did, you know, gave away like CDs, and we got to brand the front of the box with Milo, and super cool. So yeah, we've worked with local photographers who are world renowned, like Estevan Oriol, who's from East LA, has shot a lot of like Chicano and Latino and like gangster culture around Los Angeles, lowrider culture, you know. So, well, I can go in here for a sec. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that we've done over the years, like this box. Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones, and it's cool. Like inside, we printed it, and then on the back. This one we did recently for this was the opening round of Motocross Nationals. So we did this custom box, and we served little pizzas, and it was just for the Fox Racing VIP lounge, which was super fun. I'm into riding dirt bikes, so that was fun for me to do. We did this with this local LA artist, Chase Locke. So it's partially printed, and then the rest of it's oil, actual oil painting. Iris Skateboards, George from San Francisco, he made us these handles for like pizza cutters, and then a little pizza peel, and they're recycled skateboards. So it comes with like this art box. There's a foam inside here that, like, you know, all that stuff like lays in really nicely. So anyhow, that's gonna come out soon. Here's one we did just recently, which was fun, for the launch of Skate Moss's headwear line. So we did that. Here's one we talked about right here. This one, I mean, some of them, they were up front, so they're kind of dirty, or they're like, I don't know, they're burnt, you know, or they got hot. So yeah, it kind of does. You know, the Descendants, and then I'm kind of showing you some of the ones we talked about, but this one's Estevan's. This super iconic photo. Yeah. But I have a few of these left. These Kyle Walkers. So we did the whole pizza party presentation for his pro model when it came out down here in LA. So I have a few of these left. And then I have some other cool shit that I can show you. This was, I like this. This is when the Death Wish video came out. We did the Death Wish pizza, and we actually cut this out of the pizza. So when you got your pie, it had this logo in it. So that was cool. And then we did, this was another one we did. This was a collaboration we did with G-Pen. And this was a template that we used. When the dough was soft, we would take this, and with a mallet, we would use this, and it would cut the dough out into this shape. And then we made these pot leaf shaped pizzas. And that was the collaboration with G-Pen. And we had like a G-Pen like vape pen that came out with like our graphics, and it was super cool. They did an amazing job. So this is a cool box featuring Tony Alva, Glenn Friedman, and C.R. Stesik's Dogtown book. We did a series, so we did 5 different boxes. So this is one of them. And then you have, there's this one with Paul Constantino. And then there's Peggy Oki. And then there's these two. There's Red Dog, Jim Muir, and then you got Jeff Ho, so founder of the Zephyr team. That's my son's name, Zephyr. He's named after those guys.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then This was one we did for Vans and Cab for when Cab turned 50. They had a party for them at the Van skate park. So, and now what's cool is we're in the 30-year anniversary of the half cab right now. And that's what he's doing right there on the box. Cab salad, and this is our latest collaboration. So this is actually available right now. This is the Joan Jett and PETA collaboration. So Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, they're a LA band from back in the 80s. And so we teamed up with PETA, and Joan Jett, she was down to support us by being the spokesperson for this collaboration. So we built the whole thing around her. And so this pizza, when you order it, it comes with a activated charcoal sourdough crust, so it's black. So it's a black heart-shaped pizza, and it's vegan. And it's also sponsored by Miyoko's. I don't know if you guys have Miyoko's up in Calgary, but it's this amazing plant-based butter and mozzarella cheese and all kinds of cheeses. They're from Petaluma up near San Francisco, but they're an amazing company. And I don't know, hopefully you guys will get to try it soon. But yeah, so that's our collaboration right now. That kind of stuff is what makes having the brand meaningful and fun, you know? Yeah, so from that perspective of like people who've come in here, it's funny. I say everyone from Tony Alva to Tony Hawk's been here, you know, from the skateboarding world, you know, and we appreciate that, you know, just the fact that we've gotten so much support from the skateboarding community and my peers and friends. I mean, I was sitting here having a meeting the other day, and it was cool. Costin came by, and you know, Greco's here, Andrew Reynolds. Most of my employees skate, so they recognize, you know, all the guys that come by. But we have, you know, I mean, P-Rod, like you just name it, you know, Nija, everyone's been here, which is really awesome. And they speak really positively about our place, you know, which is also really cool. But we've had like Jay-Z, you know, Vincent Gallo is a regular. Gene Simmons was here with his family. I'm trying to think, there's been all kinds. Patty Schemmel, the drummer for Hole, you know, is a friend of mine. She comes here. All kinds of people, man. I can't really remember all of them. But you know, my philosophy is that I don't try to use or leverage like celebrity sightings and endorsements. I want people that come here, whether they're pro skaters or Hollywood A-listers or whatever, to come and just feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Because like we're building our brand organically and authentically, and we don't want to. I'm not into hype, you know what I'm saying? Like what we do, I want this shit to be real and not like based on, you know, I don't know, just fluff, you know what I mean? I think I want to say it was after the Reel video, the original Reel video. Yeah. Yeah, we had a party. We had a big party. Yeah, there was a big party up in San Francisco. It wasn't like what they are now. It was like in a warehouse with the ramp, and it was kind of surreal, you know. In retrospect, you know, thinking about that time, the Skater of the Year, I wasn't really prepared for it, you know, and I don't know, maybe now people are prepared because it's like a thing that people work for, you know what I'm saying? That kind of just T-boned me, you know. At the time, you know, in all honesty, I felt like I was still learning how to skate. You know, I still had a lot of learning to do. And I think that later on, I felt like I was a better skater. It was an interesting thing for me because it brought me to a place in my life where, I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, when you're in a relationship with someone, for example, like it brings things to the surface, like, you know, trauma or whatever. And that's kind of what that moment was for me. Like it almost didn't serve me at the time. You know, it was kind of a disservice. I'm really grateful for it, but it made my life difficult for a while. I wasn't really prepared for it emotionally or mentally or in any way, you know. So, but like I said, I'm super grateful, and you know, I wouldn't change anything, but yeah, it was an interesting experience. I want to say 5. Yeah, I think 5 different shoes. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a challenging time when I had my shoe, you know, because Soltech and DC were new and they were doing some really cool innovations for skate shoes, and I think they were a little more nimble, you know, because they were smaller companies and they were able to just do things really quickly, and they were fresh. And Vans had an identity crisis at the time, you know, so dealing with a lot of the folks that worked at Vans at the time was challenging because they didn't have any connection to skateboarding. You know, they were into fashion, and like Vans was also transitioning their manufacturing out of the States. They were outsourcing now to Asia, so that was challenging. So it was cool, it was fun, but it was hard to make what we wanted. It was hard to get what was on paper into the physical product. A favorite shoe? Not really, because the shoes that I actually wanted to make, they never got made. You know, I would propose stuff, and then they had a certain direction they wanted to go, and certain aspects would get incorporated, but no, I really don't. I honestly don't like any of them. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I was so involved in, you know, with the elephant and with my Vans shoe. It's really funny thinking about it because, you know, I'm a huge Vallely fan, you know, from when I was a kid. You know, I loved Mike. I love Mike, you know. It's like he's always been also another inspiring person to me skateboarding. And so I always loved that graphic, you know, with the elephant, you know, that he had on Powell, and I love that board, and that's really what inspired that. You know, it has no other meaning. It was like a connection to something that I liked, and obviously a very abstract connection because they don't resemble, there's no resemblance at all, but that's where I got the idea from. Oh, yeah. Well, that's different because I was working on a film, and it may still be in the works, but I was invited by the Iranian government to head an effort to build an Olympic skate team. We were gonna, you know, document this whole process. So when Powell had hit me up about doing my board, I really wanted it to be connected to my cultural heritage, you know, so both my parents are from Iran, so I chose the lion because that's like the national symbol of Iran. And then there's some calligraphy that's like a pattern in the background that's also part of it. I wanted VCJ to do the graphic, so it would be, I don't know, I think he's done a lot of iconic, you know, imagery for skateboarding. So I wanted something that would not be like a graphic that you have and then switch it out right away, you know. A favorite graphic? I have a few, but like my own personal graphics, yeah, a favorite graphic of mine, I have it actually. It's one of the only ones I have, but Jeff Clint, who was one of the guys that started Reel, he and this other guy, Jeff Whitehead, who is a skater and then became a tattoo artist, did a graphic for me that I love, and it was a slick board, and it was a guy that kind of had a helmet on with like these blinders, like looking at his clock. It was called the Time Chaser. So it was kind of like a commentary on just how our society is so focused on work, and how silly that seems, you know, for some reason, but especially when I was a kid. So I really like that. And I have the original. It's like one of the only original graphics I have. Oh yeah, the Chasing the Wind. Yeah, that was a cool one. Yeah. I loved all my Ansel graphics. I mean, he did another one that was like from a reference to a biblical passage that was like said, like kill, steal, and destroy. That was a really cool. I wish I had those original art pieces because they're so cool. I think, you know, with regards to my endeavors and being a, you know, entrepreneur, I think a lot of it just stems from having a very kind of independent spirit naturally, you know, and I think that's one of the things that attracted me to skating is that part of it is like a fear of having some entity or agent or company or someone else like controlling me or telling me what to do with my time. Since I was a little kid, you know, I feel like I don't want someone to direct my time. I want to direct it myself. So I think that's one of the drivers. And then my dad's an entrepreneur, so it was modeled for me, just as a child. And I think that, when you're a skateboarder, you take risks, and I think that you learn a lot about yourself taking those risks and what kind of toughness, I guess, you have to come back from falling, you know what I'm saying, to deal with failure, because you deal with it all the time. So I just kind of consciously thought, like, I have all those tools, so I should try some stuff, And there's actually a guy, Tony Campolo, who's a sociology professor that, he's been a advisor to all kinds of statesmen here in the United States, and he interviewed 50 people over the age of 95 once, and he did this study, or this sociology study on them, and asked them if they could live their lives again, how would they do things different, or what would they do different? And they said they would reflect more, and they would risk more, and they would do something in their life that would last after they were gone. So I've kind of lived by that, ever since, and it's not easy. I've shed some tears, over being broke and owing people money and having partnerships that go sour. It sucks, there's a lot of pitfalls, but I think it's all worth it in the end for me, if I get to be the one telling myself what to do, For me, business is more of just a framework to continue to be able to have a creative expression. I think when you talk to most people who are in business, unless they're in finance, it's not about the money. It's having a creative outlet and also doing something that is positive, for a community or for your family or something like that. But, money is whatever. It's part of the equation, but it's not the be all end all of it, A local skate shop? I'm gonna have a skate shop. Yeah? Yeah, my new store that's gonna be open in May. My favorite local skate shop? Well, I guess in LA, I'd say Kingswell. I don't know, they seem to just be on it, man. Like, I don't know, they just seem to always have cool new shit coming through there, It seems cool. It's like a good flow. And I like Patrick and, the guys that own it and run it, and it was sweet. Like the other day I was leaving here and these guys showed up from Kingswell. It was like National Pizza Day. Really? Yeah, and that's like on the other side of town, Shit, man, any independently owned local shop, I love them all. If you're in LA, just come visit and say hi, Oh yeah, you can visit us in Tokyo and also in Seoul in Korea. And then we're open in San Marino, which is kind of surrounded by Pasadena, South Pasadena, Alhambra. And yeah, the front half of that store is, half of it's a skate shop, and then the other half is food service. So I'm kind of blending two things that I really love together. And I hope to do more like that.
That's a cool idea.